After so long, the anticipated showdown between two of DC's greatest characters is finally here. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice is the sequel to Zack Snyder's 2013 film Man of Steel, and is the establishing film for the new DC Extended Universe, or the DCEU. The film introduces several new characters, and also teases what's next to come, especially for the Justice League film. Despite less than favorable opinions from many critics, there are several people that still find the film to be very well made and very enjoyable. So, does the film manage to properly establish new characters, as well as move the already introduced characters forward? How well does it do in creating a universe that will only continue to grow and expand? Most importantly, is the film a good starting point and a proper representation for some of the greatest comic stories ever told? Let's go ahead and find out. Starting off, let's take a look at the new characters introduced in the film. They are all really good. Ben Affleck as Batman was a choice that brought up a bit of controversy at first, seeing as how he had previously given a less than impressive performance for Daredevil. His portrayal of Batman, though, is very impressive, and is definitely one of the best Batman portrayals we've had in a long time. This version of Batman is also a lot different than the Batman that most people are familiar with. He's a much darker version of the character, and he's been damaged after 20 years of crime fighting and the implied death of Robin. Several actions that he takes, such as his bad branding of criminals and his indirect killing of several opponents, might seem a bit out of character, but they are quite understandable when given his current situation and everything he's been through so far. His reasons for mistrusting and being against Superman are pretty well explained, since he was present during the battle between General Zod and Superman. This led to him being able to experience firsthand the destruction that Superman can cause, and also personally connects to him since people he cares for were hurt and killed during the attack. Gal Gadot definitely steals the show whenever she's Wonder Woman, or even just when she's Diana Prince. Her character was left very much so in mystery, but that works for her benefit since she has her standalone Wonder Woman film right before Justice League. What is shown of her character though demonstrates how she's able to stand on her own, as her own character even among Batman and Superman, who dominate most of the screen time. It's also very interesting to note that Wonder Woman had some changes in her character, such as the fact that she's been around for much longer than usual, and she might even be ageless. She also gave up the fight for humanity in this version, believing that they could not be saved. The Wonder Woman movie will definitely flesh out her character completely, and explain some of the changes made to her character, but her appearance here made her out to be a unique and interesting character that I can't wait to see more of. Finally, we have Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Now, this is a very polarizing character, with some people hating him, with others praising him, with just very mixed opinions. Personally, I enjoyed Jesse Eisenberg. He seemed very awkward at times, and spent most of the movie ranting about the eternal struggle between God and man, but a lot of his awkward moments make sense. Lex Luthor is by nature a sociopath. He does not know how to interact with people well, so whenever he tries to be nice or get along with people, it comes off as weird and awkward, because he doesn't know how to play well with others. When Luthor isn't trying to be nice, when he's actively backstabbing, manipulating, and demonstrating his superiority, that's when he really gets to shine. It's during these moments we see the true Lex Luthor, not some awkward and seemingly eccentric philanthropist, but a ruthless and cold-hearted genius mastermind. Jesse Eisenberg manages to hide the true nature of Lex Luthor behind an unbreakable facade. His hatred for Superman is also properly explained, with the fact that Superman makes him feel worthless. Even the most powerful and intellectual being is nothing when compared to the Man of Steel. Lex Luthor has a superiority complex, and Superman makes him feel inferior in all regards. The only real complaint I have is the way that Lex Luthor loses his hair. I was really hoping he would lose it in the early stages of kryptonite cancer, from running so many experiments on General Zod, but the way the film handles it is pretty disappointing. Returning from Man of Steel, we have Henry Cavill as Superman. In this film, they actually refer to him as Superman, something they never did in Man of Steel. A lot of this film, though, is centered around the aftermath of Superman's fight with General Zod from Man of Steel, not only in Metropolis, but in the world. Both Batman and Lex Luthor's actions in the film are directly influenced from how they react to the destruction that Superman and General Zod caused, as well as the fact that a being like Superman even exists. There are some times in the film when Superman can feel more like a plot device than an actual character. And I also don't like at all how Clark Kent was portrayed. Clark Kent is supposed to be a clumsy and meek news reporter, to contrast with Superman's confident persona. In the film, though, Clark Kent himself is very confident. He actively stands up for himself against his boss Perry White, and against billionaire Bruce Wayne. He also has a very firm handshake, as Lex Luthor puts it. All of this is very unlike Clark Kent, but it doesn't really get in the way of the story. The last important character worth mentioning is Lois Lane. Throughout almost the entire film, Lois is delegated to just being someone for Superman to save. She does, however, have an important role in regards to Superman other than just fulfilling a damsel in distress part. Lois is what connects Superman to the Earth. She helps him feel connected to the people he's trying to protect, and also helps him feel mortal. Her character is a bit of a downgrade from her role in Man of Steel, simply because she was independent of Superman in that film, but she does still manage to carry her own plot, trying to find and uncover a conspiracy against Superman. So all the characters are pretty good, and they fulfill the role they are meant to, but how exactly is the pacing in this film? The runtime for the film is about 2.5 hours, with a 3-hour extended version to come with the home release. Even with a runtime much longer than most other superhero films out there, the film still feels like it tries to do too much at some moments. The first hour and a half is used to establish Batman's origins, as well as set up general exposition and motivations for Batman, Superman, and Lex Luthor. A lot of the exposition though feels very clunky and comes off somewhat forced at times. There are also at least 3 dream sequences that serve no purpose except to foreshadow and set up the events to come in Justice League and other future films. There's a lot of time spent on the debate with what Superman should do, what he's required to do, and what the effect of Superman's mere existence means for everyone else. These scenes are nice, but there are too many of them at times, and they can feel quite redundant after enough time. The actual fight between Batman and Superman is very well made. It's a great fight, but after so much build-up and anticipation, it just sort of ends too soon. The final act in this film also feels so rushed, it tries to do too many things. One of the reasons for the poor pacing is because the film tries to set up Justice League in too many ways. It's a little disappointing that so much time is spent trying to set up future films, because it ruins the potential this film has as its own individual film. The only real good thing that came out of so much exposition for future films was the cameos of the other members of the Justice League. Their cameos feel much more natural than other parts of the film, such as the dream sequences, and they're pretty enjoyable to watch. The film also suffers from quite a few problems other than just messed up pacing. Doomsday is a plot device, not a character, and that is such a disappointment because they basically wasted one of Superman's greatest opponents. I will admit though that the fight against Doomsday was great, and it was amazing getting to see the DC Trinity fighting together for the first time on the big screen. The reason for Batman and Superman fighting is nicely set up and the fight itself is great, but the way they stop fighting and begin working together just feels so forced and contrived. There are also a lot of things that happen that get no explanation at all. The biggest example of this is Lex Luthor. It's eventually revealed that Luthor was manipulating all sides to get Batman and Superman to fight each other, but a lot of his actions just happen with no explanation as to how he was able to do it. The reason that Superman is against Batman is also never explained. He claims to be against Batman's vigilantism, but it's stated Batman has been around for 20 years now, so why is he suddenly taking an interest in the Gotham Bat? On that note, it seems off that Batman has been around for 20 years, whereas every other member of the Justice League is just beginning to become a hero. Some of them aren't even heroes yet, they just have their powers. Despite its problems though, Dawn of Justice is still really enjoyable. One last thing to note is the difference in style between this film and Marvel films in general. DC's plans for the DCEU have been heavily compared to the current Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the MCU. But DC and Marvel so far have shown very distinct methods for making their films, and they both work for their respective companies. Marvel for the most part makes their films like action movies, while DC seems to make their films more like a traditional comic book. For Marvel, each film is its own thing, and they have the post-credit scene to connect one film to the next, while DC for the most part has tie-ins to the next film in their current film. DC also seems to take a variety of sources for inspiration. Dawn of Justice isn't a direct adaptation of any one storyline, but it does take a few points from Justice League Origins, the Flashpoint Paradox, the Death of Superman, Injustice: Gods Among Us, and especially The Dark Knight Returns. This is also apparent in their outfits. Batman's outfit is taken almost directly from The Dark Knight Returns, and Wonder Woman seems to have been inspired somewhat by her look in the New 52 universe. Because of this approach that DC is taking, as well as the fact that their films are very dark and realistic, contrasted with Marvel's more humorous films, they could be alienating a few non-comic fans from enjoying their films. People who aren't fans of the comic, but are fans of the characters, might not enjoy it as much as someone who has read all the different stories and has all the different background, as well as has seen all the different points that this character has been through. The film also skips a lot of backstory for characters and assumes the viewer already knows concepts such as fear gas, parademons, and so much more. Dawn of Justice is very much a comic book film and not a superhero film. Due to this split, I will give Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice 2 scores. One for people who actively go out and read all the comic stories, and others who are just casual fans of the character, who like the character and wish to see the film, or even just people who want to see the film without any background on the character. Overall, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice is just an average play if you're a casual fan, but it's definitely 10 out of 10 if you have all the backstory, all the years of history, and you know everything there is to know behind these characters. Also, please note, I'm not separating casual fans from comic fans. I'm merely saying if you don't have the entire backstory, you could get a little lost at times and it might hinder your enjoyment. You don't have to read comics to be a true fan. Either way, if you've seen Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, let me know what you thought of it. Do you agree or disagree with what I've said? Let me know. Either way, I hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time.